not even 3 months into 2023, but oh my god, this year has been a bang for media so far. And if this is any indication for how the rest of 2023 is gonna go, well, we're in for a good year, my guys. Today on Fraud on the Telly, I want to share with you all some of my favorite things from winter 2023 so far. Our first and possibly most obvious pick is HBO's The Last of Us, the live-action adapted series of the horror adventure game. Now, I've covered this series several times already on the channel, but if you have no idea what I'm talking about, or you've not already watched the Last of Us series, what are you doing? I'm not joking when I say that this show is easily one of the best video game adaptations I've ever seen, and trust me, I've seen a lot of them. The Last of Us takes place in a post-apocalyptic America where a zombie-like virus linked to crazy, mind-controlling mushrooms has swept the world. The story follows Joel, a middle-aged badass who has been tasked with transporting Ellie, a 14-year-old girl, who just so happens to be immune to the zombie disease. Of any video game to be adapted into a live-action show or series, The Last of Us was definitely high up on the list of good ones, at least to me. As to me, the main appeal of this game is the deep and emotional story that it tells, which I really have to say is somehow even better in the show. The Last of Us somehow stays true to the story of the video game in really all the ways that matter. Some scenes and lines literally coming straight from the game. But at the same time, the show is not afraid to make some changes and do some creative differences, which all, in my opinion, better enhance the story and make The Last of Us, the show, just so freaking good. The show takes time to explore the backstories of many of our characters through flashback scenes, many of which were not in the game at all. Even if you've never played The Last of Us or know absolutely nothing about the series or the story or the characters within it, I implore you to watch this show, because the best part of it is you literally don't have to know anything to enjoy it. It's one of the most realist and rawest human stories I've seen in a long time, and frankly, I'm blown away at just how well the showrunners did at adapting the video game story for television. And I think that by the end of the year, we're going to look back and we're going to be saying that The Last of Us, the HBO's The Last of Us, was probably the best show of 2023. Next, we jump over to Netflix for one of my many guilty pleasure shows, Physical 100. Have you ever wondered who really is the most physically dominant, physically fit person in the entire world? Physical 100 looks to try to answer this question in a way that really only a Korean game show could do. They combine elements of Squid Game with an anime's Tournament of Power for an absolutely crazy reality TV series. Physical 100 is a Korean reality TV series that looks to find the most physically fit person in Korea by pitting 100 of the nation's top athletes and fitness personalities against one another in a series of tests and challenges very heavily inspired by Squid Game, with the winner receiving bragging rights as well as a large cash prize. I did a whole video on this show when it first released somewhere around a month ago. Make sure you go check that out. But basically, long story short, this show is an absolute blast. It's just really fun, man. While being a reality series, it surprisingly comes off as really real and quite personable and even wholesome at times, with many of the contestants very much just seeming like normal, everyday people. Well, despite the fact that they have insane bodies. Compared to many reality series in the West, Physical 100 just feels way more genuine, and it's really quite refreshing, especially in the way that it's presented and the way the contestants interact with one another. The contestants themselves are a very diverse group of people, ranging from Olympic athletes to soldiers to bodybuilders and firefighters, with all sorts in between. These contestants are put through a series of challenges, testing the different aspects of their physicality, from stamina to strength to speed. You get the idea. Physical 100 somehow straddles the line of being a fun-to-watch reality TV series where you see interesting people compete in crazy challenges, yet at the same time, it also somehow feels like a kind of legit sporting competition, with the level of the athletes that are competing, as well as the variety of tests that they do to test their fitness, and just how serious that all of the athletes seem to take it, even at times pitting the competitors against one another directly in tests of physical strength, will, and stamina. The show is just a really good time and a fun, refreshing change from basically every single other reality series that would be possibly comparable in the West, specifically that we see in the United States. And if you just want a good time and to have a few laughs, then really go check out Physical 100. Continuing with Netflix, we have, well, maybe one of our most controversial picks on this list, the Junji Ito Collection, a series of short, spooky, and strange animated stories from one of Japan's masters of horror manga, Junji Ito. Ito is easily one of the most iconic figures in the horror world of Japan, and with panels like this, you can see why. The Junji Ito Horror Collection is a series of shorter, horror macabre manga stories adapted into an animated format. These stories in this collection are, in my opinion, a lot less scarier and disturbing to, well, many of the other works of Junji Ito, but because of this, it makes for a great introduction into the mind of this horror genius. While I did enjoy the mini anime adaptations of these stories and the many horror themes and, well, the many disturbing themes that they cover, I have to say that this animated series does fall flat when you compare it to the original manga work. But I have to say, I think this is more a commentary on the quality and the amazingness of that original manga than this animated work as itself. At times, the animated work feels maybe a little bit rushed, some scenes even coming off as awkward instead of scary or heart-throbbing as they would come off in the original manga. Scenes that shocked me and unnerved me to my core when I first read them in the manga sometimes feel a bit awkward when you compare the scenes to one another from the manga to this Netflix anime. It's not to say that the animated work is bad as a whole. I think that it's perfectly fine and does a great job of conveying a lot of the themes that Ito tries to convey in the manga. The stories and art are very faithful to the manga as a whole. They just kind of fall flat in really trying to relay the same feeling of horror that Ito conveys in the manga. If you're a horror fan and you've never experienced Junji Ito, I do recommend watching this series. While it fails to live up to the lofty heights and the chilling, nail-biting suspense of the manga that it's based off of, I have to say at the very least, it is a good introduction to Ito's brand of horror for new viewers. But for me to really get a sense of the brilliance of Ito's horror, I do highly recommend reading the mangas and the short stories that these collection of anime short stories are based off of. Well, that is, if you think you're up to it. We end off our list with another animated series, though this one is quite different from the aforementioned works of the horror genius Junji Ito. My last favorite thing of winter 2023 is the Legend of Vox Machina Season 2, which will come to no surprise from a lot of my regular viewers. The animated series based off of a Dungeons & Dragons campaign from possibly the most famous and popular Dungeons & Dragons show, Critical Role. Now, we've done super extensive content breaking down the themes and all of the craziness going on in this show in the past. Click the eye above to go check out that playlist. In short though, Legend of Vox Machina, in my opinion, is one of the best Western animated shows to come out over the last few years, really in a long time. Specifically, a Western animated show for adults. The show follows the adventuring group Vox Machina as they fight to save their world from a group of evil, ancient, powerful dragons known as the Chroma Conclave, who have very unceremoniously taken control over their entire continent. Simultaneously, our band of characters must face a number of personal challenges and roadblocks that face them individually that lead to, well, greater character development and just enhancement of the story overall. Legend of Vox Machina, to me, really hits all of the boxes that make for a great animated show. A super crazy, awesome world, deep, fleshed out characters, crazy art and animation, hilarious comedy, eye-watering drama, and amazing music. This adult animated show somehow manages to do all of these things while still staying faithful to the story and the feel of the original Dungeons & Dragons game that it's based off of. And really, the best part, in my opinion, is that you don't need to know jack shit about Critical Role or really Dungeons & Dragons at all to enjoy this show. It's just a great story, full stop. As a piece of animated work as a whole, it's just fantastic, and the quality of its writing and the way that the showrunners have adapted the story of the D&D campaign, fitting it into, well, 12 episodes of a 20 to 25 minute animated format is just absolutely brilliant. Somehow this show continues to get better from season to season, and with a third season on the way coming in 2024, it seems that the Critical Role team has no plans to stop. I talk about this idea extensively in my review for the show, but Legend of Vox Machina to me really fills a void that was left in the Western English-speaking animated world, specifically for Western animated adult content. For some reason, the only English-speaking animated works targeted at adults really are comedies. Just look at Archer, Family Guy, South Park. I mean, you can name them all. You know what I'm talking about here. Over the years, it really feels like Western animators have just conceded making serious, fun, adult content, adult, serious stories over to the Japanese animators. Legend of Vox Machina, along with similar animated works like the Castlevania animated series, are finally starting to fill this gap and take back some of this animated space that has been completely ceded over to Japanese animators and anime. And it really shows that, yes, adults will watch a serious animated show if it is made for them. I do implore you, please, even if you know nothing about Dungeons & Dragons, to give Legend of Vox Machina a chance, especially if you are an animated lover. I promise you that you will find something to love within Legend of Vox Machina. It just does too many good things brilliantly for you to not find something that you can like from this show. And yeah, that was it from some of my favorite things from winter 2023. If the rest of 2023 is anything to gauge off of the first 3 months of this year, then expect some absolutely banger shows and movie and media to be coming out over the course of this year, guys. As always, if you enjoyed the video, learned something new, make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. I look forward to reading your thoughts in the comment section down below about the works that we've mentioned so far. What other works do you think have come out in winter 2023 that you think are amazing that I should go check out? Leave them in the comments down below. And as always, guys, I hope to see you in the next one. Stay safe out there. Until next time, peace, love, auto.
A love story that might be. We wasn't supposed to happen. So much talk around us. We became numb to the yapping. It was like 05. Got my license to drive. Picked you up in my pop's car. Went for a ride. Couldn't no one tell us nothing. That night was ours. All the stars aligned and you were so damn fine. Yeah.